No, no, I'm trying to hear more. I'm hearing more. I'm trying to say you're not.
Oh, okay. I thought you want me to pay more attention to these.
Oh, well, we always can, but I'm just saying that I feel like I'm trying to hear it like that. I'm hearing
Yeah, I
more.
know, so I'm asking you.
It feels like you have more of a sense of where you're going. More
But when you say the house that like the most probably like from art and
Yeah, yeah.
and like for example representing it's B to this is A
Yeah.
to
The A flat.
So does it mean in our phrases it should be like something but connect or make it anywhere but how to emphasize
Well, just to heighten your awareness of it and practice slowly incorporating into your soul. Incorporating it into your.
All right, autumn leaves, huh?
So that's so B flat to the A is that's target, B flat,
How many, have you done this 2 times? It's gonna be second time?
What are we playing here? Autumn leaves.
Okay, so some of the things I think we talked about last time, we're trying to get you to distinguish more between the B flat major notes and the notes from G minor, right? Even though it's the same family, right? Relative major, relative minor, we want to kind of distinguish between the happy B flat major sound and the sad G minor sound. So try to distinguish between the two, even though it's the same notes. B flat major shapes, G minor shapes. Try to make us hear the difference between the two. Who's got the melody in the beginning? Okay, you got the melody at the beginning. That means you got the melody at the end. And you're going to cue the last 3 chords at the end, right?
G minor 7 chord, it's a G minor chord.
You gotta find something else other than the 7 too. Do a G minor 6, G minor major 7, G minor with an add 9, something like that is nice. 7th just makes it sound like you're in a mode.
A minor 7th chord is not a 1 chord. Sorry, good.
That's all right. So a little bit of improvement. I'm hearing a little bit better distinguishing between the B flat major and the G minor. I'm a keyboard player. I'm not hearing it as much. There's a couple of situations where we were on one or the other, and you were on the opposite one. Plus, he's kind of doing like some kind of harmonic, either harmonic minor or like Hungarian minor or something.
I think it was
Something-
Hungarian.
I think it was like, yeah, it was something like really east of the east.
Far east.
So, yeah, it's definitely not a Hungarian minor situation. So I want you to try to make something musical out of the natural minor. Force yourself. Even though the D7 has an F sharp in it, it's kind of a cool contrast having that F against that F sharp. But the F sharp is part of the chord. So think about trying to stay in that natural G minor as opposed to going too exotic on that. Jonathan, I thought you had some really nice ideas. Good solid walking. Try to stick with him on the walking. He's got a good walking feel. So in this time, you got to push the time a little bit more, like a little more on top of the beat. I'm thinking more in your solos. You seem like you're kind of your ideas are kind of spinning out, and you're kind of sometimes leaving like a hole and listening for the next chord and then reacting. Trying to figure out a way to try to connect your lines more. It doesn't mean playing non-stop notes all the time. You've got to have space to take breaks, but you are leaving some nice space in there. Just thinking about how to try to extend some of your ideas. Using more of the shuffle rhythm. Sometimes breaking the chord note. You got good natural instincts.
Sure, I'd love to go. Where do you want to go if you want? So a few things. With your soloing, we've talked a lot about the rhythms and stuff. And when you're using some of the phrases that we've been talking about, it sounds awesome. And I can hear where you plot those in, and you're getting better at them. They're starting to sound a little nicer. But when you're left to your own devices, you fall into ba ba be ba dee da dee ba be ba dee bo bum 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 be ba dee ba da, right? And everything's on the beat, and here I'm on the beat, and it's just what you're defaulting to, what your default rhythm is. So you got to get rid of that default rhythm in your playing, because all that downbeat is killing you. Even if you're playing the greatest notes, it'll sound like crap, because all I'm hearing is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, things like that. So just be aware of that in the way that you tend to phrase. I personally would like it if you were a little bit more on top of the beat, because I felt like you were like on the back of the beat a little bit, and I would like you to drive the bus a bit more on this. I know everybody looks at the drummer to be the one that really sets it, but boy, the bass player is a big part of it, and don't rely on the drummer to say, well, she's going to set the feel and I'm just going to go along for the ride. If you push it forward a bit and like be a little bit more aggressive on it, then that makes it easier on her too. She doesn't feel like she's having to drag the band.
Yeah. Force the issue.
Yeah, I did feel that there was this sort of thing where these guys were sitting more forward on the beat and you guys were sitting more back on the beat, and there was this like push and pull from the song. I like some of the things that you play when you're playing time. I like, and you have a nice sense of feel. You need to work more on your eights and things like that, because I was getting a lot of your rhythms were 1 and 2 and 3 4 and 2 and 3 4. It was always something like that. And so after the 4th or 5th time of boom 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 boom, I was like, okay, I've had that rhythm. Give me another rhythm, right? So and it can definitely be a little bit lighter. you know, you can, it doesn't have to be all sort of these big, sort of hitting hard on the toms, because that tends to drag it down a bit. Find some other ways, you know, listen to how drummers play eights or play fours and things, and the different little things that they do to make things, you know, move well, rather than sort of late. But that's it.
Okay. So, start over here on the drums. You know, given the some time issues, you generally kind of have a nice sense when you're playing time and whether you're accompanying. When you go to solo, just kind of keep the same temperament, you know. It doesn't, it's just, the solo is just an extension of the tune. So, and you can use the melody of the tune too. You know, if you know it, you can have the melody in your head and phrase it and kind of play the melody too. And use that to spawn some rhythmic ideas in your solo. But yeah, you have kind of a nice temperament, then you go to solo and you start hitting things harder than they need to be hit. And so don't, for anybody, you know, don't think of the solo as the start of something new necessarily. It's just an extension of the tune, right? It's just a continuation of the music. So you don't have to shift gears in a dramatic way. You know, I agree about the time feel. I think it could tend to be a little more on top. I liked your soloing. I liked your. I think you have a nice melodic sense. I heard a lot of nice sensibilities that way. Good job. Heard some nice things in your solo as well. You don't have to play the melody quite as literal as you're playing it. And, you know, it's all these kinds of tunes are written, you know, it's all quarter notes. You don't have to play it so literally. You know, you can take some liberties with how you phrase it. Okay. So, my friend over here. You know, you're first of all listening. When you're accompanying the melody and the soloing, I just don't feel like you're really listening to what's being played. When he was playing the melody very straight, you know, landing on the downbeats all the time, and you incessantly were playing a chord on the and of 4 and anticipating when he's not. So it's constant battle. So whether you agree with the way somebody's playing a melody or not, or you think it should be different, you've got to play with what is being played. So instead of anticipating on the end of 4, you know, anticipate in the next bar, and leave the downbeat alone. You don't have to play. You know, so that just tells me you're not listening to what you're doing in relationship to what's being played. You're just doing what you're doing. And that's never okay. You've got to base what you're doing when you're in the accompanying chair on what you're hearing, whether it's somebody playing the melody or somebody soloing. And the same thing happened in a solo. And the same thing happened in your own solo with your left hand. You're playing this incessant rhythm almost in every single bar with your left hand, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing in your right hand. You know what I'm talking about? You got a rhythmic thing that your left hand's almost in a world of its own. It just keeps doing what it's doing, and it's not bearing any relationship to what you're doing in your right hand. You know, you gotta like come see me or something, and you know, come to an OC or something, and we'll make some time. But the listening thing is it's very important. So if he's going to play the melody straight, you can't just jump in and play against it or play on the end of 4 of it. You got to listen. So if he's playing it straight, you know, that's fine. There's room after in those spaces in the melody to do syncopated things in the comping. But you're doing like it's almost like a quasi-Latin rhythm you're doing rhythms in your left hand that aren't even swung, they're kind of almost even, they're kind of like, I can't remember now, but there's one that you do a lot, that, you know, something like that, it's almost like some kind of segment of a bossa nova rhythm. And so, you know, we need to work on that. You need to do less of that, and you need to get a relationship between your left hand and your right hand when you're soloing. You know, so it's, and plus, you know, it stays incessantly in the same range. It stays within this octave, you know, between middle C and the octave below, and so we've got to get some more variety. And you don't have to play as much as you're playing when you're accompanying. Rhythmically, you're playing a lot, you're playing too much. And so, but that's going to come from listening. And so if you're listening to how somebody's soloing, you got to base what you do off of that, off of what you're accompanying. You can't get into your own, even if you're playing, you might be playing some nice rhythms. There's nothing wrong with playing on the and the four. I understand in this music that makes sense, you know. But if it doesn't support what the soloist is doing or what the melody person is doing, then it's not a good choice. Okay?